cage fighting is kind of a weird thing, kind of a weird platform upon which to project the complexities of the human condition onto. I'm talking, of course, about last weekend's bout, Khabib, the Eagle, Nurmagomedov, and Justin Gaethje. Much anticipated bout. Didn't disappoint, at least in terms of the fireworks and the entertainment of the fight. I would have liked to have seen a longer contest, just to see more of a dialogue between the two fighters, a further exploration of all the tools that they had brought to the table. But I think the outcome was going to be the same nonetheless. The real takeaway for the fight, the real moment, the real entertainment, was those moments after the fight where Khabib mourned his father in the octagon, probably for the first time that he was able to breathe a sigh of relief after the training camp, for the highest stake fight of his life. This is just an incredible moment, and it's so weird that it happened in a cage fight. I mean, you're fighting another guy in your underwear with a codpiece in a cage for money. Had to fly to Abu Dhabi because no other jurisdiction would let you right now, and in this kind of tangled, weird mishmash of things going on, I think one of the most beautiful moments in sport history, at least for this year, went down. It got almost like I'm going to be honest, I teared up when I saw that the first time. Probably because I'm probably starting to mourn the mortality of my own parents, even though they're not gone yet. But you can't hold on to them forever. And so I think in that moment, everybody saw a little bit of themselves, whether they've lost their parents or beginning the process of grieving the mortality of their parents. It's just extremely relatable, extremely humbling, and oh man, I really do almost tear up just thinking about it now. Khabib is an interesting figure to me, in the case that he draws such a stark contrast to the tone and the tenor of the UFC as a product. Let me put this another way. The UFC is more like Conor McGregor than it is like Khabib Nurmagomedov. It caters to that brash and kind of bravado, that 25 to 34-year-old, demographic, which I'm firmly in. It indulges in trash talk, cruelty to your opponent, materialism. In a lot of ways, the UFC as a product. They didn't get rid of that really hardcore intro music until just a couple of years ago. It's the UFC as a product is, flirts too much with this whole just bleed and talk trash type of thing to your opponent, and the humility that Khabib brings in his style and in his personal integrity, and the way in which he carries himself, not only in the octagon. He decided not to do the armbar on Gaethje because he didn't want to hurt him in front of his parents, so he did the triangle. Didn't do a lot of ground and pound again, didn't want to hurt Gaethje in front of his parents. The way that Khabib carries himself inside the octagon, the way that he carries himself outside. This is a guy he's not had one scandal. Contrast that to Conor McGregor, who makes more money, is better paid, better celebrated, has had better opportunities, and will be lined up for a title shot right afterwards, right? So I guess this is what I mean, is that the UFC as a business model is more embracing of Conor than it is of Khabib. Khabib really had to take the long road to get there, as opposed to Conor was given favorable matchups the whole way through. Why am I dwelling on this Conor and Khabib contrast? It's because it really spells out to me the tone and the direction of the UFC as a product, and part of why I kind of fell out of love with it. I don't know, I'm 33 years old, I'm becoming, I guess, an adult. I am an adult, but more a man and closer to my middle age, and that sort of brash it's just less and less appealing to me over time, so Khabib was always just like this breath of fresh air, and I gotta tell you, he really stands out from the other champions too. He never really indulged that champion lifestyle. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, John Jones, Mighty Mouse Johnson, these guys that we talk about in the GOAT discussion, all great guys, all people of all superior martial artists to me. But John Jones, I wouldn't want him dating my sister. I guess I wouldn't want Khabib dating my sister either, but for different reasons. The views on women and stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like Khabib really carried himself in this like monastic kind of secluded lifestyle. Didn't really indulge in the clubs, and even George St. Pierre, as honorable of a guy as he was, it was an open secret. He liked the ladies. You know, you could see him you could find him in the clubs in Toronto and in New York City if you really looked. Khabib never did any of that. He never did any of that. I mean, he is like a warrior in the mountains, strictly devoted to his faith. I don't know of another champion like him in prize fighting. You know, a lot of times, you know, people get into fighting for that dopamine rush, right? It's a lot of times big reason older fighters who are out of the game have a little bit of a problem with cocaine, because they get addicted to that dopamine rush and they start looking for it after their time fighting is over. Khabib never did any of that shit. He never did any of that stuff. Simply found his way to fighting through his father, through wrestling, fought for money. Of course, he's a prize fighter, but really had the sense of, you know, he was fighting for nationalistic pride, for the integrity of his homeland, for his faith, and for his own family name. You know, how much money would he be able to make easily beat? I mean, you know, who doesn't think right now that Khabib versus Conor would sell like crazy? Who also doesn't think, if you're a serious fight fan, that that's not an easy fight for Khabib again? It's a very easy fight for him, probably. You mean to tell me he's just gonna walk away from 50 million, you know, 50 million bucks, just because he doesn't want to give that guy another chance? Yeah, that's the type of guy that Khabib is, you know? So I really, you know, I mourn the loss of Khabib as a fighter, because I mourn the loss of his personality and the way that he carried himself, and what that meant for the UFC as a product. You know, I've had the privilege of knowing a number of fighters in my time as the alpha male, just being a gym rat forever, and there's only a few guys that I can tell you, for whatever reason, they got it in their head that they weren't going to be prize fighters. So they weren't going to be prize fighters. Of course, they're going to fight for money, but really, this fighting thing is about fighting something deep within themselves, fighting for honor, fighting to prove for themselves that they're the best. And you know, if you ask a lot of fighters, you know, around the gym, you know, just go to an MMA gym, oh, you know, what trash talk lines are you going to throw? What, you know, what comedy, what abuse are you going to spout? A lot of people don't like that stuff. You know, a lot of people really don't like that stuff. You know, a lot of people fight for this kind of notion of honor. And over time, and as success finds you, maybe that gets eroded, you know, as you find more and more of the spotlight. But it never did in Khabib. And his integrity of character and his integrity within himself, to kind of stay true to his ideals, just amazing, man, just amazing. Okay, quick technical analysis of the bout. This is really what I meant to do. What I shared before were some unstructured thoughts about Khabib, but I really felt compelled to share them because I felt kind of emotional about what happened on Saturday night. Okay, Gaethje versus Khabib. Guys, Gaethje wasn't in it for a second. Okay, I'll say it again. He wasn't in it for a second. He had two exchanges at the top of the fight. Okay, he landed an inside leg kick to kind of range finding at the top of the fight. No, he was looking for a looping punch he was looking for a looping punch as well. Found those two little exchanges early on, and then once that happened, Khabib had said, you know, enough of this. I've had enough of this range finding, kind of feeling each other out type of dialogue to the fight. It's Khabib time, and he started pressuring. He started pressuring and walking him down. Why was Khabib able to walk him down? Because he had respect for the wrestling, and Gaethje had respect for the wrestling. He had respect for the hands. As much of a wrestler as Khabib is, he's also a boxer. Okay, so he had great head movement, great parrying, great slips, great traditional boxing tools, in which he was able to kind of weave through the defenses of Gaethje and work his way into that boxing and wrestling range. Okay. What does that mean? Gaethje's on his back foot. He can't meaningfully plant for the leg kick. He can't meaningfully plant for any of his attacks, right? So I mean, just try it yourself, right? Try punching someone as hard as you can going backwards. It's incredibly difficult to do, okay? So what does that mean? That means that Khabib is able to just completely unload on all of his shots, while Gaethje is kind of muffled. He's kind of muffled. Every one of his shots is on the back foot. Okay, now once you got somebody moving backwards, what does that also mean? It means that they can't really plant for the uppercut or the knee that they might need to meet you with if you're going to hit him with a shot. So Khabib did something smart. He tried to go for the takedown, go for the grappling up top first. Okay, he looked for like a Greco-Roman clinch, and then kind of like a step through, kind of like a bear hug type of deal, to get Gaethje to the ground. When that failed, then he started looking for the shots. But it's good to at least try to take someone down with the Greco-Roman. Why is that? When you send your head down towards the knees of somebody, you're flirting with disaster there. Okay, an uppercut, a knee, anything like that. I mean, that you get stuck under somebody, you start eating punches. It's really a risk, okay, to take a shot on somebody, even if you're as dominant as Khabib. Okay, it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, you're stuck under a fully grown professional fighter who has all of his tools underneath, above your head, and is looking to end the fight. So Khabib, absolutely brilliant, looked for the Greco-Roman clinch before he looked for the shot. Failed to establish the Greco-Roman clinch, and so what he did, he went to the shot, but he didn't go to the shot until after he had Gaethje walking backwards, until after he had Gaethje kind of fighting on his bicycle. So that means that Gaethje wasn't really able to load up for the big punishing shots that would have otherwise been able to really punish Khabib for shooting. Guys, what happens when you fight somebody that is better than you at what you do? Okay, you have to fight them at your B game, right? By which I mean Khabib and Gaethje are essentially both wrestler boxers. Okay, Gaethje's more of a kickboxer, Khabib is more of a boxer. Okay, but they're both wrestler boxers of some sort or another. Khabib's boxing is better. Khabib's wrestling is better. Okay, once that dialogue is resolved as to who gets to move forward and who has to move backwards, that's kind of the fight. That's the primary dialogue. That's the primary method of engagement for both fighters. That means the person who is unable to establish the respect and the fighter who is unable to establish the dialogue of I get to unload on my attacks, now has to fight his opponent in his B game. What's Gaethje's B game? What, jiu-jitsu off his back? Non-existent, irrelevant. Okay, we saw it totally irrelevant to the fight last night. So really that's just what happened. Is Khabib is better than Gaethje at what Gaethje is supposed to be good at, and so that leaves Gaethje with not a lot of places to really go to win the fight. So that that's part of why Gaethje didn't look so hot, if you will, last night. The contest didn't stretch out for longer. We didn't get to see more of Gaethje's tools. Not putting him down, just to say that stylistically it's a very, very difficult matchup when you're fighting someone who's better than you at what you're good at. It's like, where do you go? He's supposed to become a jiu-jitsu fighter overnight? What's he supposed to do? So really admirable effort by Gaethje. Just didn't have the stylistic tools to change the dialogue of the fight. But hey, he's in good company with that McGregor, Poirier, everybody. No one's been able to stop him. So what did you think of the fight? Drop a comment below. Let me know who you'd like to see Gaethje fight next. Thanks for listening.